Good morning. Thank you for connecting today's HIA Manufacturing and International Trade Committee meeting. I appreciate it. Happy holidays. Thank you for your time and thank you for your interest. So I think today we have a panel of experts and speakers. So we'll be talking about how we can prepare our business for the new year. So my name is Kevin Deveci and I am a co-chair at our committee, Manufacturing and International Trade Committee. As you know, I'm working with Ron Loveland, my colleague, at our committee. So together we organize events, we facilitate meetings to help manufacturers thrive in Long Island and New York area. That is our mission. So for that purpose, as you know, we have organized many different factory tours and organizations, as you know. We also facilitate many educational webinars, and more to be coming next year. So some of them, for example, that we organize, for instance, doing business with Vietnam, for example. One of our missions is actually international trade. We also talk about doing business with China, for instance, doing business with France. Also, we talk about doing business with Brazil, and one of the popular subjects was that we covered is actually cannabis business, and that was the part one of our series. More to be coming next year, and we talk about cannabis industry and how we can get ready in New York State to be active in this industry as a processor or maybe a seller, maybe a grower perhaps. So we had also a panel of speakers for this subject. So also in recent months, we also talked about cybersecurity for manufacturers. We had actually many different instances, as you know, and cybersecurity is very important for manufacturers as to having many important data and information. So how to keep it safe, how to manage it is also critical in that sense. So one announcement. Also, we have a LinkedIn page, so you are more than welcome to join us, our LinkedIn group, so that we can share announcements and we can stay in touch. That's another avenue, another channel that we can stay in touch. Before we jump to the subject matter, Haley is with us from HIA headquarters. Haley, any announcements from you? Anything that you'd like us to learn?
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate it. Hi, my name is Hallie. I am the event planner at the HIA. We do have some exciting events coming up. Actually, tomorrow we have a webinar. It is the 2022 Economic Outlook that's going to be presented by the Bank of America. You can still register. It's tomorrow it begins at 12. So if you are looking to register, you can definitely go directly on our website. It is a free event, so I definitely recommend if you're able to attend, you can definitely tune in. And then next week, we're really excited for this. We are having an ugly sweater holiday party that's going to be at Patrizia's of Hop Hog, and that's all of our members are welcome to come. Non-members, it's just going to be a fun networking event. Celebrating the holidays, celebrating the new year, and that is from 3:30 to 5:30 next Wednesday, the 15th. So if you are able to come, I definitely recommend it. Best ugly sweater does get a prize, so that'll be a lot of fun. Of course, it's not mandatory, but it's definitely going to be. Oh, I love it, Ron. Very nice. But yeah, it's just going to be a fun event. Everybody's just going to get together. We'll talk about the new year, which is really exciting. So yeah, definitely recommend. I hope to see everyone there. And then going into 2022, we have our 44th annual meeting and legislative breakfast. So that's really exciting, 44th annual. So we're very excited for that. It will be back in person. So we do have the flyer out with some information. Tickets are available now. We'll be providing more information on location in the next upcoming weeks. And then just overall 2022, we're getting back in person. So we're going to have a lot of exciting events coming up at a lot of different locations on Long Island. So we're just really excited to be seeing everybody face to face again. We will be offering hybrid options for all of these events for those that cannot attend in person. But overall, we're just really, really excited for the 2022 year, for all of our committees, all of our events. We're just really looking forward to, getting back to business with everybody. And yeah, if you do have any questions about any of these upcoming events, feel free to reach out to myself. I will put my email in the comment section. And yeah, I'll go right back to you, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot is going on at HIA, so it's always good to be updated. Thank you very much, Haley. Also, in terms of updates, maybe Ron, you can also let us know what is coming up next month. I know you are getting ready for January with another panel of speakers. Why don't you tell us about it?
Sure, I'd like to welcome our manufacturing folks here, our friends at East West Industries, Jen Basile and Kelly Drew. Welcome this morning. And I saw on LinkedIn that you hosted a group of students from Patchogue Medford School. That's great to see manufacturers reaching out to their future workforce. And we're going to be discussing that coming into the new year, finding ways to connect manufacturers to their future pipeline. Because the biggest issue I hear these days is labor. We can't find enough people to run our factories. So congratulations to East West. You've been doing a great job with internships and reaching out to schools, and we'd like to kind of spread that along with more manufacturers. So actually, I'm going to be having a meeting tomorrow afternoon with Water Lily's Food. They just moved from Astoria out to the old Enemans building in Bayshore. And we're going to start connecting the BOCES, the Longwood schools, the Patchogue schools, and see if we can help them to find workers here. Not they've moved out to the island. And of course, continuing support from Mtrc. We appreciate everything Cynthia does there at Mtrc as a Lone Ranger. You do amazing work, Cynthia, for just one or two people there that run the show. But well done, keeping supporting manufacturers here on Long Island. And then finally, for January, last year we had a panel of tax experts. We're going to do that once again because the tax laws keep changing, right? What the manufacturers need to know to be able to stay up with the latest changes. We're going to be talking about R&D tax credits, the employee retention credits, various types of things that manufacturers should be aware of. So tune in on January the 12th, and we'll see you next year. Best wishes to everybody for a very happy holiday season. Be well, be safe out there, and we'll see you in January. Thanks.
Ron, thank you very much for the updates. Yeah, as you heard from Ron, more is coming up at our committee in an educational and informative manner, content. So I will be announcing our coming meetings as well moving forward in 2022. Okay, great. So let's get into it and let's get started with our panelists, and let's talk about how we can prepare our business for New Year, for 2022. So we have many things to do in terms of preparation, many different considerations to actually have. So we have a panel of experts with us to talk about different subjects in terms of how we can prepare our business. So let me introduce our panel to you, and then we can get started. So we have John McHugh with us. He is the president of Brainstorm Studio, and as you know, John is actually very active in our group, in our HIA community. And as Brainstorm is a full-service digital marketing agency on Long Island, they develop basically campaigns and data-driven activities for companies to help increase brand awareness as well as qualified leads. And also the idea is for digital marketing is to have actually measurable results. So that is actually one of his expertise that we learned from him before. And since 2002, Brainstorm has been a trusted partner of manufacturers and organizations in Long Island area. John, welcome to our panel. Thank you for being with us. We have Bill Newman. He's a senior counsel at Freshman Bonner and Rocco. Bill is also very active in our community, as you know, and his experience in business law and practices. So today we'll learn from him as to legal aspects of a business that we can consider moving forward, getting ready for 2022. Just like Ron mentioned earlier, we also have Cynthia Colon with us. Cynthia is very, very active in manufacturing community in Long Island, very helpful, very supportive all the time. She's a graduate of Stony Brook University and currently in master's program for operations analytics at Stony Brook. At Mtrc, she's been with the organization for 5 years, and also she is also a co-owner of her own small business. So she's very active with us, very helpful with us, and I welcome her to our panel. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we also have Alex Quartero with us. Alex is the principal of Emrys Consulting. He is also a certified lead ISO 9001 auditor. And he has many years of experience in quality management in different industries, including aerospace, manufacturing, and we'll be learning from Alex with regards to practices of ISO and quality management fundamentals. And we also have Rob Tokarski with us. Rob is the Vice President of USI Insurance Services, and Rob will be actually with the organization for many years. He has more than 25 years of experience working with manufacturers as well as local businesses. So Rob helps clients identify the risks and business interruption challenges specific to their industry, and also helps them actually implement the mitigation and solutions plans moving forward. Especially he's working very close with manufacturers as to help them manage their risks. So I also welcome Rob to our panel. Thank you very much for being with us. So let me also see our waiting room. We have more attendees coming up. Okay, perfect. So I'd like to start with John, if that's okay. And
sure.
Also maybe we can make a little change. I just saw a notice. Okay. So why don't we start with Cynthia, if that's okay? Sorry, I just saw the notes. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I appreciate
Okay.
that. And
Yes.
yeah, I couldn't find childcare this morning, so this is fantastic. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for reaching out and having MTRC in your meeting and on your panel this morning. So if you don't mind, I would like to, if possible, just to share my screen.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay. Now, since we're recording for those who will be watching this off of your website, I figured it'd be easier for me to guide everybody through the MTRC website. So anybody watching this can visit stonybrook.edu/MTRC. Again, stonybrook.edu, and all you need is /MTRC. All right, so off to services and funding. I'm just going to stop right here for a moment. MTRC is the Long Island MEP. We are the New York MEP for Nassau and Suffolk County. We are the support organization center for manufacturers that have headquartered or branched in Nassau or Suffolk County who have less than 500 employees. And to qualify for MTRC services and funding, manufacturers need to be sure that they are validated through the Dun & Bradstreet system and have a manufacturing NAICS code registered in that DUNS profile. Okay, so MTRC is a very lean center. It is myself and my executive director, Dr. Yiming Kao. MTRC offers services in biotechnology. Our cluster focus is biotech, simply because New York, within the state of New York, Long Island has the largest presence of biotechnology manufacturing for the industry. We have a biotech consultant on MTRC team. And if any manufacturer is interested in any services, reach out to mtrc@stonybrook.edu or click here to learn more. And we can take a look at and have a conversation on what is available for those manufacturers. MTRC also offers consulting for food manufacturing, food and beverage manufacturing, and that is done through the Long Island Food Council. And we can get more into that. MTRC hosts monthly coffee and connects and is often on the Food Council weekly meetings, which I believe will be going bi-weekly. So any more information for any of those two consulting services, please either reach out to MTRC or to Long Island Food Council for food and beverage. For funding, all right, so here's the meat and potatoes. So MTRC manages a $5 million award, which is granted over a 5-year term. So essentially, it's just a little less than $1 million a year. And it is, majority of it is allocated to match manufacturers' cash investments in a multitude of categories. And these categories are projects in which look to it's an economic development program. So these projects will look to see how this would impact the workforce. So these projects need to have some sort of job creation or job retainment tied to them, okay? The categories for matching, I'm just gonna skip over feasibility and federal award match for just a moment. But for the MTRC Supplemental Award, they match cash investments, and the largest category is manufacturing expansion. So MTRC matches at 15% of what the company invests in a project with a cap at $10,000. And this is per project. And this grant is intended as a cost savings. So the company is able to use that cash to either reinvest in the existing project or bootstrap and start a new project so that the company can continue developing and moving forward. Okay. The categories that we have first is manufacturing expansion. That supports equipment purchase with job creation, development, research and development. That is a match to not only internal Stony Brook work with Stony Brook program partners, but also external. There's a few different type of projects that would qualify under R&D. And we can certainly dive more into that, or if we have any questions, we can dive into that. But under R&D, this will be revised. Under R&D would be cybersecurity assessment and implementation. Also workforce development. So as an example for matching, let's take workforce development. If a company is investing in a project, let's say lean manufacturing, lean training, the company would apply to MTRC, and we'll get to the application process. The company, a manufacturer, a qualifying manufacturer, would be entitled to 15% of what they show paid for that project, with a cap at $10,000 per project. So if a company is looking to engage in, let's say, 2 manufacturing training projects, then those are 2 qualifying awards that a company can apply for at the same time through the MTRC portal, which we will get to. And all they would need to do is when they have their proposal ready, they would go to the portal. If they have not already registered as a new user, they will do so. You start a new application and select the category for workforce development. You would upload your training proposal. That will be reviewed and approved by MTRC. And once it's approved, the company has their time to move forward. They have 3 months to move forward with their training project. And once complete, they come back to the portal and upload the specific milestone requirements. So every category has specific milestones to release the grant. For workforce development, it would be when they are completed with the project. They would upload the training documents. I'm following you, Ron, to make sure you're getting those notes. They'd upload the training documents. They would upload proof of payment in full, and they would upload the sign-in sheets to validate who attended that training. And then once submitted, that triggers the application, I'm sorry, that triggers the supplemental agreement signature. And the company will then receive their reimbursement within 6 to 8 weeks. So we're looking to reduce that turnaround time using our application portal, which has been very successful so far. But so everything will be done and mainstreamed through our portal. Companies can apply and have 3 months to go through the project and then come back and upload the milestone payments. The grant is sent to the company directly. And that again is for the company to use as they see fit. So for R&D project, again, 15% of the cash investment capped at $10,000. For federal award, so if a company receives an SBIR or STTR phase 1, MTRC can immediately match that at $5,000 for the company to use and invest in the project. They can use that to hire interns or use as they see fit to continue the project. Phase 2 and phase 3, MTRC can match at $10,000. Again, manufacturing expansion. Now, this says equipment only. And this is if a company is expanding, such as Water Lilies when they came to Bayshore, that supports equipment, okay? We do get some people that ask for front office equipment, and that does not qualify, all right? Again, 15% capped at 10. Feasibility, very quickly, I will chat about feasibility. Feasibility studies is a category that is designed to assist manufacturers to get them through an immediate obstacle. Now, MTRC supports all manufacturing with the exception of software development. So everybody's obstacle is different. So again, you come to the MTRC portal, click on feasibility study to apply. You would submit your brief description of the project, and the same with the workforce development. You would copy and paste your objectives and deliverables. You give us your objective for feasibility. You tell us how long the project would take, give us a duration, give us your expected job creation, and you need to support the costs that you expect to spend for the project. Even though you have not spent it yet, show us a quote, show us a screenshot of your Amazon cart if you're purchasing materials for equipment, okay? Then you can submit, regardless of what the cost of the project is, MTRC will evaluate that project and will be able to grant up to $5,000 for the company to use to move forward, okay? And then anything beyond that $5,000 is the company's responsibility. And again, this could be a company working on their own. This could be a company working with a third party. This could be a company that's doing R&D with somebody either with an MEP or within Stony Brook or what have you. The company then comes back at the end of the project to give us a final report that's uploaded to the portal, and that closes the loop for that project. And that essentially is a stepping stone to continue supporting the company as they move forward in development. For this feasibility project, workforce development, all categories, the agreement that is signed entails that the company will follow through with the project, circle back with MTRC, and agrees to take the economic impact survey that is tied to that project. So every grant and every check that's accepted by a company from MTRC will receive an MEP client survey. Okay, and that's to capture economic impact. What was the impact and return for the dollars that the state and federal government has given the company? All right, and then that ends up being our impact for the region. So program partners on this call, please know that when these surveys go out and we copy you, this is why this is so crucial. This ends up being the impact for our region. And we want to make sure that the federal government and the state, our program is 2/3 federal, 1/3 state. We want to make sure that they know that their money is being used, what they're getting back as a return, and that they need to give more. So we need to make sure that they fill out these impact surveys properly and fully. All right. So the questions are on the MTRC website. If you go right here under Supplemental Award and MTRC Awards, all of this information can be found, including the economic impact questions. Okay, this gets sent to the company directly from MEP on the federal level. All right, MTRC is aware of that, and we let our companies know, and we stay in touch with you, if not a gnat in your eye, to make sure that you fill that survey out. Okay, I think I'm going over my time, but just to wrap up, the MTRC website portal is right here, mtrc.stonybrook.edu. You don't need all of that. Again, mtrc.stonybrook.edu. This is what it would look like. We are headquartered at Seawit. Please register as a new company if you have not done so. We will need your DUNS number and NAICS code to validate you through the NIST MEP system. Once that's done, you can come on in, you can click around and take a look at the categories. This is a faux company I set up. There's my, that's my little Isabella LLC. So you click on your company, and I've already started a new project, but let me click here. You create a new project. This is my company profile. I haven't set up Isabella LLC. All right, so I'll just jump back here. When you create a new project, you'll be able to select the categories. Let me get out of here. You'll be able to select the category and get more information as to what the milestones are to release the grant for each category, okay? However, across the board, it's 15% cash investment with a cap at $10,000, with the exception of feasibility and federal phase 1, that's 5,000. All of this can be found again at stonybrook.edu/MTRC. All right, and if there's any questions at all, you can email mtrc@stonybrook.edu, and that gets to myself and my executive director.
Cynthia, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very helpful as always. Well, it's always good to learn about resources available for
Thank
our
you.
businesses, for manufacturing, and Cynthia is always very helpful. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for these insights. I know you may have some questions to our audience. I also received some of them. We have a Q&A session towards the end, so we'll have a chance to ask our questions at our Q&A session. Now, I'd like to invite Will Newman to our virtual stage. Will, what would you like to share with us? So we are getting ready for the new year. So in terms of legal considerations, preparing our business, what we should be thinking about. You know, when we think about legal aspects, there are many different things that we can think of, especially as a contract management, for example, right? For with customers, with suppliers, and for other affairs actually at our businesses. So let's hear from you. If you can share some insights with us, that'd be great.
Sure thing. I wish I could tell you all what was going to happen in 2022, but I don't have a crystal ball. But one thing that I've learned in 2021 is that there's a lot of things that are unpredictable. I don't know if in 2019 people could have accurately described 2020, and I don't think at the end of 2020 we knew the extent to which the pandemic would still be with us, the supply chain shortages, the labor shortages that not only affect us at the end of 2021, but may still be here in the following year. So given all that uncertainty, what advice could I give? I guess the only thing I could really say is that people should think ahead. My job is I'm a litigator. I help businesses when they get into lawsuits, when employees threaten a lawsuit against them, when a supplier or a vendor or a customer doesn't pay their bill or provides inadequate products, or people accuse a company of doing the same. And given supply chain shortages and given changes in the capacity for companies to find and work with labor, that's been more challenging now than it ever has been. And although I can't do anything that prevents lawsuits, I can tell companies what to do about expecting lawsuits. A lot of people that approach me now and potential clients are very surprised about the uptick in the amount of litigation and how expensive it can be. And a lot of them are very surprised. And one thing I guess I would caution, people that are in attendance today is not to be surprised and to be proactive and to look out for potential for litigation and to avoid it, or if it's inevitable, to make sure that there are provisions in place to make sure that you don't bear all of the costs of it. Frequently people come to me and go, well, there's this lawsuit, but I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I have to pay you a lot of money to explain why I didn't do anything wrong? And the shortest possible answer is that there are things that you could have done ahead of time before you found yourself in a lawsuit to make this financial burden not something that you have to bear alone. So there's three things I wanted to talk about. One is getting insurance ahead of time. You're going to hear from Rob in just a little bit about insurance in the new year. And I can't stress enough how much my clients would have benefited if they had conversations with people like him ahead of time before having to talk to someone like me. In general, I always feel bad for people that have to talk to someone like me. But one of the things that I don't like about the conversations I have are how expensive litigation can be. And having a good insurance policy in place makes that conversation with me so much easier. A lot of companies say, well, we're a small company, we can't afford insurance. It's not something that, they consider it to be a luxury. And I just stress that it's not really a luxury. The ability to pay for litigation out of pocket, that's a luxury. But thinking ahead of time and getting the appropriate insurance policy, whether it's an employment EPLI insurance policy, a general commercial liability insurance policy, cyber insurance, these are things that I consider to be necessities so that when, not if, there's a litigation against you or one that's threatened, you don't have to worry about your company going bankrupt or going into personal finances in order to pay for a defense of your company or business. The second is in all of your contracts, making sure that there are fee shifting provisions in place. A lot of people expect American litigation to be like litigation is in Europe. In Europe, if someone sues you and you win, they have to pay the legal fees. It's not fair that you have to pay for a defense of a frivolous lawsuit. But that's not the default in the United States. Unless you put a provision in your contract that says that the loser pays the winner's legal fees. And that, I think, makes things a lot more fair. Kersad, you had mentioned a moment ago about contract management. And one thing that I like about what Kersad's company software does is it keeps track of contracts and makes sure that they're in place. But just as important as having the contract is making sure that the contract has terms that are favorable to you. And one favorable contract provision that you should make sure that you consider having is one that shifts the fees in the event that an employee sues you, or a vendor sues you, or a customer sues you, or you need to go after them, to make sure that whoever is at fault pays the legal fees. And if you are innocent, you don't end up having to pay legal fees on top of whatever else you have to pay, or that cuts into the recovery that you would get in the event that someone doesn't deal fairly with you. So besides fee shifting and insurance, the last thing that I guess is important to have are contracts that discuss what happens in the event that you're unable to perform. You can look at the news and look at uncertainty about new variants, about labor shortages, about supply chain issues, realize that there's a very real possibility that if you're a manufacturer in the year 2022, you may not be able to deliver the products you're supposed to deliver on the timeline that's available to you. It could very well be that you do your job correctly, but the nuts or bolts that you need to put together whatever you're manufacturing just don't come in the mail. Or the workforce that you expected to come in now won't come in because there's a new variant that makes it dangerous to operate your workplace. A lot of people just assume that the law will take care of them if that were to happen, or that their customers or suppliers will be understanding. I was at an HIA-LI virtual meeting about a year ago, and I emailed a lot of panelists and people that I met over the course of these meetings and asked, how have customers and vendors been? Have they been understanding? Have they been not understanding? I was very pleased to discover that, especially in the Long Island business community, people were understanding. And that made me feel better. But it doesn't guarantee that they will be understanding going forward, especially if the problems that arise take longer than people expect them to, or are more severe than they expect. And so to that end, I would look over all of your contracts and make sure there's provisions that discuss what happens in the event of a labor shortage, what happens in the event that there are supply chain issues. And if your contracts are silent about that, you should really put in language that deals with that eventuality. Anyway, those are the thoughts I had for 2022. I guess the other thoughts I had are to find good TV shows now and like stick with them. I'm told that good TV shows only get good after the 3rd or 4th episode. So like really commit to them, because I think that in the new year it'd be very important to, I don't know, find some good shows, especially if the good ones are getting canceled. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for listening to me. And if you got questions, please drop me an email. I'm always happy to talk.
Yeah, thank you very much for your insights. I appreciate it. Yes, there are many different things to think about getting our businesses ready for 2022. And in terms of being proactive for contract management and other legal considerations, critical. And thank you so much for sharing your insights, your experience with us. So,
my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Will, as always. And as you see on my screen, I also have contact information of our panelists. If you like to continue these discussions, if you have questions, you can ask our panelists via email. But at the end of this meeting, we have a Q&A session, so you'll have a chance to ask your questions as well. Some of you already sent me some questions. And if you have questions, you can put in the chat box for now. And or you can hold on to them and then ask your questions during the Q&A session. All right, great. So one of the important things about businesses, actually, maybe the most important thing is actually sales and marketing. So we gotta sell what we manufacture, right? So so let's think about marketing and sales practices for a moment. And for that, actually, we have an expert for this. I don't have to say much. We have John with us. So John, if you can share with us what is coming up for 2022 for manufacturers and for businesses, what they should basically consider in terms of especially marketing, communications, any trends that you can share with us. We welcome any information. We all gotta sell, right? At the end of the day, so any tips are welcome. I like to leave you the virtual stage. Let me stop sharing, and feel free to share your screen when you are ready.
Sounds great. Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we can see your screen. All right, looks good. Thank you.
Great. All right, let's get started. So so we're going to talk about marketing and sales strategies that get results, because I'm sure everyone has dabbled in marketing, has marketing budgets, and probably not always clear on what type of results they're getting. So we're gonna give you some good tips today on what we've found.
John, in terms of time, we are doing well, by the way. Sorry for interruption. You have 15 minutes, and I'll let you know when 5 minutes left. Thank you.
Great. Sounds good. So just a little bit about Brainstorm. So we're a full service digital marketing agency. So what we do, we help clients generate leads that turn into sales. We create content, whether it's written, technical white papers, all, engineers and manufacturing people love technical content. We help with that. We can create videos. We manage search engine programs, which could be both organic and also pay-per-click. And then one of the big things we focus on is marketing and sales CRM automation. So automating all the things that you used to do on one-off basis, is, email blasts and, sales emails and things like that can all be automated now with rules and workflows. And our big focus is manufacturing and technology companies. Many years ago, we used to work for a lot of different industries, and I don't know, we found we just love companies that make things and have their own technology, and they're a great fit for our services and these types of programs. So that is our strict focus. So often this time of year when I'm speaking, I'll speak about what's the trend for next year, what's hot in social media, what's going on with video. And those are all great things that we use in our programs, but I'm taking a little bit of a different approach for this session, being that it's budget planning season and that time of year. What we're doing for our clients right now is analyzing what we did in 2021 and how it worked for them. And what can we change in 2022 to get better results? So in that, I found 2 clients that got extremely high return on investment. One's in a manufacturing space, one's technology. So I want to kind of take you through like the secret sauce of what we did for them and how they got such a great result, hoping that, you know, some of you could maybe learn a few things and incorporate this in your strategy for next year to grow. So some of the issues that these particular clients dealt with is a long sales cycle. You know, there's a long consideration process. People are looking for multiple vendors, seeing who's got the best materials, who's got the best pricing, whatever it happens to be. Takes a long time. We know we got to speed that up. They may not be generating enough leads to scale. Maybe through their website, they get a handful of leads a month, but that's, you know, they've got multiple salespeople. That's not enough to keep their salespeople busy and fill their pipeline. Often leads are not qualified. You get, you know, whatever, junky leads through your website and they're not really qualified companies. That's an issue as well. And we find too, a lot of, you know, industrial manufacturing clients, they rely on typically one or two or a handful of conferences or live events each year that will get them the majority of their leads to support, you know, that following year's growth. And I think we all saw what happened in 2020 when all those events got canceled. Many of us had to pivot and see, what can we do now to generate more leads and keep the sales going, because we can't meet in person. And that's where, you know, a lot of our digital marketing programs became super important because they had to shift those budgets. So here's the results of these two key clients. So one is a manufacturer of industrial 3D printers. Their printers are used for aerospace applications, healthcare, automotive, you know, very technical applications. And they got a 292% return on investment this year. And they're looking to scale even more this year. So we're going to be expanding several of our programs for them. The other one is an enterprise cloud solutions provider that got a 427% return on investment. And these include, these programs are a mix of our agency services plus some paid media, whether it be maybe paid search engine ads through Google or LinkedIn ads, things like that. But both got an excellent return. The cloud solutions provider, that's probably our 5th year with them, and they continue to get this type of return every year. So they're an excellent fit for lead generation and digital marketing. So this is kind of the secret sauce of what we're doing. And it probably sounds pretty simple because, you know, many of you probably do different types of these things, but it's really how we do it. The amount of time we put into research and strategy on these programs. So for us, it all kind of starts with SEO keyword research. You all have customers. They're all looking, you know, and prospects, and they're all looking for a solution to a problem. You know, I need this widget that needs to fit on my truck, and I got to find out who makes that. Or, you know, I need this computer backup service, you know, to prevent disasters that are going to come and give me continuity or something like that. Or maybe I need a service. They're all out there Googling, you know, to find that answer to the problem. And what you want to do is, you know, do a bunch of research with, you know, a digital marketer. Google has tools for this, and we can see all those terms that people are Googling and how many searches they're getting a month. So we can develop content and get your website to rank for those questions. So when they're looking for these answers to these questions, they find you, right? So that's where content creation comes in. Content could be in the form of a blog. It could be a technical white paper. There could be guides, you know, guide to disaster recovery, you know, a guide to aerospace manufacturing, whatever it happens to be. And then when we create that content, often we promote it with paid ads. So when someone's Googling something, you know, we can get your business right at the top of Google with a paid ad. And they can download, you know, that white paper or that guide, and get like a premium piece that is educational that they learn from. And what that does is it allows them to build trust, with your business, because you look like an authority. You're educating. You're not just going right for the sale, and that really helps when they're considering multiple vendors. And these ads, yeah, we've done them with Google. They could be search, they could be display, and LinkedIn's also a great source. They really ramped up their advertising platform in the last few years. So yeah, great, obviously, great platform for business to business. And in most cases, what we want to do with that content to capture leads is we want to gate it, meaning we have a form there where you have to fill out a couple of fields. And, you can keep those forms short. You can go just 3 or 4 fields, maybe, name, company, email, position, maybe something like that, just to keep them short. So it's not annoying. And basically we gate that content. So you then capture that lead and it goes into a CRM where we can now act upon that. So you're getting all these leads in, right? An important thing is to score them, meaning based on how engaged somebody is, we can score the leads. For instance, if you've visited, about the company, 2 product pages, maybe then there's a pricing page or something like that. And then maybe there's the qualities they have. If you ask how many employees they have and it's 500 plus, or, something that makes them a very qualified lead for you, you can add scores to all these form fields. So when a lead comes in, you could almost call it like a test score, right? Someone comes in there, a 95 out of 100. You want to act on that lead really quickly. That Gmail lead that didn't even give their name, and you don't have to respond to that one too quickly. Maybe throw them in your monthly newsletter or something like that. But the thing is, if you have a limited sales team, it's really important to prioritize the leads that look most qualified so you can respond quickly and hopefully win that business. And there's software systems that do all this. You also want to make sure you route these leads properly. Maybe your salespeople cover different territories. One's Northeast, one's South, one's West. So you could do that with rules as well. So the leads get routed to the right people that cover those territories. So to talk about different types of leads, so all of you today that are attending this session, what I'd consider you is probably a marketing qualified lead. You're interested in planning for 2022. You showed some interest, then you probably like to receive some additional information. That's what we consider marketing qualified lead, or MQL. If a few of you reached out to me after this event and said, you know what, I'm looking for an agency next year, I need some help, that would be a SQL, a sales qualified lead. So that one should go to your salesperson that they can follow up properly. So those 2 leads get treated differently. MQL should just get more marketing information, maybe a case study, some product or service information, stuff like that. So just some, things to keep the touch points going for when they're ready. With an SQL, again, that goes right to sales. There's an inquiry, there's a need, there's probably a budget. So in that case, you do want to follow up with that one immediately. Basically, a lot of that is done with automated workflows. And what that is, that's like automated email communications that we can do with certain software where you time out different emails, 5 days apart, Monday to Friday between 10 and 2, and you get a new lead, you just drop them in that workflow and they'll get that information on a regular basis. So, with some trade shows coming back now, I'm sure many more will be around next year. That's a great use for that. Some of our manufacturers, we have different workflows built out, like an engineer workflow, an electrical contractor workflow. And when they come back from their shows, we drop those contact lists in those workflows, and those emails are programmed to go out once a week for 4 to 5 weeks, all done. No more uploading lists and, creating an email and doing this manual labor. That's, listen, it's 2021, 2022 is coming. There's a lot smarter ways to do things than manually.
John, hi, this
Yeah.
is Kevin. Sorry for interruption. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. I'm rounding third base, so. So after, either we do the sales outreach or the nurturing, the next thing we do is we analyze everything. How did everything work? How was the traffic? How was the leads we got? How was the quality? Were they in certain verticals? Were they in certain geographies? Because there's so many ways to slice and dice digital marketing that if we can segment what really worked, maybe we want to run certain campaigns on the West Coast just for aerospace. Maybe we want, certain in the Northeast just for healthcare. So with all those learnings, we can really start to double down on what's working and kind of either improve or just cut what's not. So the longer you do programs like this, the better your results are going to be. As we learn, we optimize, the results improve. And that's really the whole process. And then we kind of just repeat it and go back to the beginning. And maybe we expand to another vertical or we expand to another territory. So one important requirement in all of this that we spoke about is that these types of programs, they really rely on a sales CRM and marketing automation software. So I'm sure many of you run on Salesforce. Salesforce has a great integration with HubSpot. HubSpot is marketing software, marketing automation software. And they also have their own sales CRM too. So you could be solely on HubSpot for marketing and sales, or you could do HubSpot with Salesforce. Both work really well. I would say 90% of our clients are on one of those two setups, and we find them to be extremely powerful if you know how to use them. And then, I just want to say that marketing automation, I know it sounds advanced and it may be on some of your, wish lists on, we do want to get to it at some point. And a few years ago, it was a trend. It really is no longer a trend. A recent study showed that 75% of B2B companies are doing some form of marketing automation now. So it's really, if you're not doing it, your competitors probably are. So it's something that, it's just a very smart way of doing marketing. It gets results if you stick with it. I would say often like these types of programs, you do want to stick with a year or two really solid all in, because they do learn over time and the ROI keeps getting better. And that's all I had for today.
John, thank you very much. Very helpful. I appreciate it. So we do have questions. When it comes to marketing and sales, there is always many different things to discuss, and these are all exciting, especially getting close to 2022 for us to think about how we are handling sales and marketing operations in our own company based on what we manufacture, based on what we offer is critical. So thank you very much, and we're going to have questions for you during our Q&A session.
Great, thank you.
Please stay with us. Thank you. All right, so let me take over the screen and we'll continue our panel. So now I'd like to invite Alex Kovacherov to our virtual stage. As you know, quality management is very important for any business, and having actually a robust business management system is also critical. So in that sense, ISO is very, very helpful, ISO 9001. So in terms of quality management, customer satisfaction, and continuous improvement, let's pause and let's think about it for a second. And for that, I'd like to invite Alex to our stage, and let's hear from him and learn about the fundamentals of ISO and what we should be consider moving forward in the new year for our businesses. Alex, if you are ready, floor is yours.
Okay, so let me share the screen.
Okay. You have about 15 minutes, and I'll let you know when 5 minutes left.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Looks good.
Looks good. Okay,
Yes.
very good.
Thank you, Alex.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining this seminar, and thank you, Kevin, for inviting me. Yes, I will definitely talk about quality management, and I'm not really going to focus on ISO. The only reason I'm mentioning ISO is because it's a very good way of managing and controlling your quality management system. And obviously, as we all know, the last 2 years, we were impacted by the pandemic, and going into 2022, who knows what's going to happen. But I will defer that discussion till at the end of my presentation. So before I start, just a very brief introduction about my company, Mtrc Consulting. I personally am a certified ISO 9001 lead auditor, and I've established Mtrc Consulting in 2015 after a rather lengthy career as a project manager in a large aerospace company, which happens to be here locally at Parker Hannifin, which is certified to the AS 9100 quality standard, which is the aerospace standard. And now what I do is I provide consulting services for businesses that are either trying to achieve or maintain ISO certification. And I've worked with Bimser Solutions, with Kevin's company, in the last about three years now, in helping each other, applying some of the tools that Bimser has for maintaining ISO to help deal with all the data that ISO generates. And I also have presented a number of webinars and lectures on various ISO topics. So there are really 7 management principles, quality management principles that you have to consider. It's customer focus, then leadership and engagement of people. So this really involves with all the people involved. Obviously, you have to satisfy the customer. The company management has to be involved and participate in all of the activities and decisions of the organization. And it has to also flow down to all levels of the organization. Then you have to establish a process. And obviously the processes that are established depends on your organization and what kind of products or services you are delivering. Also, you have to deal with continuous improvement. Now, even if you think your organization is perfect, it's never happens, unfortunately. There's always ways to improve it. And one way to do that is to look at evidence-based decision making. In other words, rather than just guessing and say, well, maybe we'll look at this, maybe we'll look at that, is to really look at evidence. And the evidence is really information that you collect in performing, doing your business. And the last is the relationship management. That means that management has not only to get involved with strictly the organization, but it has to encompass the regulatory authorities, the investors, and also obviously the customer. Supply chain now is obviously a big issue. So all of that in management has to get involved. So what is really a quality management system? And very briefly, it consists of kind of 3 elements: your policies, that is really established by your organization. And one of the top policy should be how you meet your customer requirements, and also how do you meet or even exceed their expectation. The other very important part is implement a continuous improvement process. Then how do you achieve that? That's where your procedures come in. And that obviously depends on your organization. What kind of procedures do you need to perform all your functions? Obviously, to deal with your manufacturing or implementation of your activities, that all has to be written down, defined. That would be contained in the procedures. And then, of course, the responsibilities. Who does what? And obviously, management has to play a key role in that activity. So let me just go over some of the key elements of QMS. And the way I look at it is really there's three major kind of areas. One is your processes and their interactions. The very important is to have processes that are interconnect effectively. And again, it depends on your organization, but typically the processes are established and documented as a diagram. But it is important to make sure that whatever processes you define and establish, that they're supported with personnel assignments. I know it's maybe difficult to get the right staff to implement those, but that's something you have to consider to monitor the progress and to meet all the deadlines. And obviously, any issues that come up, they have to be elevated to manage. So all of that has to function very smoothly and effectively. And very important is, and that's a requirement of ISO now, is to identify and manage risks. Okay, very important part of your business. Then documentation and control. And again, the way you document and control your documentation is up to you. However, you have to make sure that whether it's stored as hard copies, which is not really encouraged currently, but it certainly is allowed. But the important part is you have some configuration control of your documents, so you have traceability of all the changes, and that is a very important aspect of quality management. And finally, you have to deal with your data. And again, as I mentioned before, data is very important for continuous improvement. Certainly root cause analysis and what the results are, and also internal audits they have to be performed because they identify certain issues, discrepancies in your processes, and there's another way to make improvements. And this is the standard plan, do, check, act cycle that's been established by Deming, quality guru. And in effect, it shows what the inputs are on the left side. And then not only do you deal with customer requirements, but you have to deal with your organization or organizational policies, and also from your interested parties, your investors, regulatory agencies, and so on. That feeds into the system. And that's a continuous loop, and where you have the planning, the support and operation. Performance evaluation is you evaluate your product or your service, both internally and also any feedback from your customers. And then obviously you look and you do some analysis, and then you go to the improvement phase where you make improvements, and then you go back. So you stay in this continuous loop kind of forever. And the numbers on each of those circles there tie in to the ISO clause. So that follows very closely to the ISO requirements, and that's basically defines your quality management system.
Hello, Alex.
Yes.
Hi, this is Kevin. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, sure. I'm kind of wrapping up. Again, why is ISO good? And again, ISO, you don't have to have ISO formally certified to ISO, but you can be ISO compliant, which you kind of follow the ISO rules. And it certainly improves your quality management system. And certainly ISO is recognized worldwide. So if you're dealing with international customers, they know exactly what ISO is. And it certainly improves your customer satisfaction. But really a very important aspect, it increases your efficiency. You become more efficient. You make decisions more effectively, and you obviously improve your revenue, your profitability will improve, even though the financial aspect of your business is not really managed by ISO, but overall you will have an improvement in your bottom line. And finally, again, I want to discuss about where we're going in 2022. We, of course, started with the pandemic back last year, and that obviously had a tremendous effect on managing quality, mostly because a lot of the employees are working remotely, and there's a lot of obstacles working remotely because you're not on site. You have to have access to all of the QMS data. So you working at home, you need to have virtual access to what's going on. And unless you have the way of getting into that database, then obviously there are some restrictions in what you can do. Also, audits are important. And with the pandemic, virtual audits where possible certainly is the preferred way of handling this. And as I mentioned before, who knows what's going to happen in 2022, but it certainly looks like the remote workforce will continue, and it obviously has advantages, as you all know. But in order to effectively deal with this approach of virtual or remote workforce, you have to have the right software tools in the organization that allows the remote workforce to have access to the QMS data. So that's an important consideration, which I think will stay with us in the future. And that completes my presentation. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Alex, thank you very much for sharing your insights. Well,
Okay.
just like you mentioned, so quality management and continuous improvement actually very important for our businesses for success. So in that sense, we appreciate your expertise and sharing your insights. Thank you very much. So so let's talk about risks that we have as manufacturers and as businesses, and how do we assess risk? How do we mitigate it? So to talk about it and to learn about it, especially, I'd like to invite Rob to our virtual stage. And let me stop sharing, Rob, so you can share your screen. Yes. Okay. Rob, floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much.
You have 15 minutes, and I'll let you know around 5 minutes left.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
All right. So let's do this. I appreciate the opportunity here. I say batting cleanup from the rest of the panel to try to tie things together very nicely. I think very good insight from a bunch of different experts in their fields. And I think that moving forward, when we talk about 2022, as several of my fellow panelists have said, the only certainty that there is in 2022 really is that there is a lot of uncertainty still. And with that, there's also more, I think, complex challenges that businesses and business individuals and corporate executives are going to be facing. That being said, the good news is there are probably more resources and more help than ever before that you as a business professional have access to help guide you through these challenges and these uncertainties. HIA Long Island is, as a whole, is a great example of so a terrific resource. You have various committees as part of HIA LI. This one specifically with the Manufacturing International Trade Committee, huge in terms of serving as a resource. And then you have panel discussions where you have and you hear from experts in their field that can kind of help and kind of the challenges and the uncertainties that you can utilize. So just the prerequisite, who is Rob Takashewski, USI Insurance. So I'm Rob Takashewski, Vice President of USI Insurance Services. And just basically, we're one of the largest insurance brokerages and consulting firms in the world today. And really, we run the gamut in terms of insurance solutions and risk management consultancy. Over 8,000 individuals and over 240 offices. Our differentiator really, and I want to allude to this just because in moving forward and talking about the resources available, folks like USI and folks like Will and John and Alex and Cynthia are all great resources, and they're great resources because they also have the differential, so they understand being able to help you differentiate your business because they differentiate their own businesses. So moving forward, let's talk a little bit about those challenges. As I mentioned, it's really going to be lingering challenges and uncertainty heading into 2022. I'm not, speaking anything that's new to anybody on this phone in terms of supply chain issues, worker shortages, delays. There's a bunch of increases in the ransomware attacks and the costs, increasing costs associated with that. The ongoing pandemic, and we're up to the 4th or 5th variation of COVID-19, and the various confusion around city or local, state, and then federal mandates that may or may not be out there or may not be coming. All those things kind of factor in, so I say moving into 2022, one of the best guides to, I'll say, what to maybe to expect or to focus on really is what we saw in 2021. And, we do a lot as USI as a resource in terms of articles and webinars and kind of connecting with the various industries we serve. And really 3 of the biggest risk management issues that kind of came up through 2021, and I'll say the most well-attended webinars and articles that we had written, really focused around 3 different areas. One is that insurance is entering the 3rd year of what's known as a hard market, which I'm going to explain all 3 of these in a second. The second is that their, contractual exposures have changed based on, the different business models that you may be, have forced to pivot to with COVID-19. And because of that, your exposures may have increased that you may not, and the risks attached that may not have been addressed or seen. And then the third thing is the, cyber risks in a challenging market. You can't turn on the TV or on the computer without hearing about some sort of cyber breach or ransomware attack that occurred, regardless of the size of business or the industry you may and may not be in. So just very quickly, in terms of these 3 areas of focus where we believe there should be additional focus, you as a business professional or company owner or corporate executive, or even you as a consumer should be aware of what's going on out there. So first is, I mentioned about a hard insurance market. What does that mean? Basically, it's that just like with anything, it's more expensive. It's more expensive to have a lot of the various policies businesses need today, big and small, need to be able to function properly in the market. Will alluded to the high cost of litigation. So seeing, what I like about Will is, without Will and legal, insurance guys or insurance folks are probably the least popular at a party. No one really wants to talk about about insurance until they need it or until it comes up. Same thing with from a legal perspective. No one really wants to talk about the legal concerns or perspectives until actually something happens, and then we become very close friends. So insurance has gotten more expensive. We're in the 3rd year of this hard market. What does that mean? Prices are increasing. Terms and conditions have been trimmed down. You have less capacity for certain types of policies, such as cyber insurance being one. The other thing is that you have business owners and corporate executives that really need to take a hard look at the risks that they're involved in today, because the risks that they're facing as a business and as a business professional today is most likely different or have morphed from where they were in 2020, 2019, etc. The second piece is managing contractual exposures. My friend Will mentioned about the contracts being or reviewing contracts from a legal perspective. I think a lot of companies do a pretty good job on that from a legal perspective, but from an insurance perspective, no one really thinks about including or incorporating an insurance professional, their insurance professional, as part of a contract review. That is something USI does. That is something more of the experienced or savvy brokers will do as well. Because as your business scope has changed and your business model may have changed, you're going to have increased liabilities and exposures. And the third is managing those cyber risks. Again, especially recently, there's been so many cyber incidents, and there's anything that's attached to those cyber instances. There's a whole slew of fees and costs associated, from business interruption to legal fees to restoring your systems, to restoring your business reputation out there. And it's now becoming a much harder cyber insurance market as well. First one, just mitigating the impacts of the hard market. And that's just in general. What you want to do is we want to focus on risk management strategies. USI utilizes data analytics and benchmarking that helps in securing pricing and better terms. Why is that important? Well, it's important for several reasons. One is that there's so many more issues now related to the pandemic, besides just the pandemic, in terms of environmental, the usual, I'll say, natural disasters that occur worldwide, the social unrest and other factors. All these things kind of have combined for a perfect storm to make getting insurance and getting the proper insurance and getting cost-effective insurance a little bit more difficult than it was in the past. And in order to present yourself as the best or a better risk than somebody else in your category, in your class, you want to make sure that you're proactive in terms of risk management strategies. You want to have proactive engagement with a broker. And again, I mentioned about USI. We and there's others out there that we look to help identify and analyze the potential risks beforehand that you're involved with or could be involved with, to help you secure a favorable outcome, meaning the right policies that are in place. And we want you to achieve best-in-class status, so that as we go and market your business, or you're marketing your business, from an insurance perspective to all the various carriers that may have workers' comp policies, that may offer property, cyber, all of those things that are out there are needed, that you're a better risk than the next guy. The second piece of it is managing the contractual exposures. Again, I think from an overall business perspective, companies do a pretty good job consulting legal on that, or they're either in-house legal or folks like Will, and that's important. But what we're finding from an insurance perspective is that your relationships are changing, and your customer base. Many people have been forced, and many businesses have been forced to pivot. And with that, you now have contracts with folks and with companies and with others within the supply chain, or even the customer base, that you didn't have previously. So ensuring that that the contractual exposures that you have with this new set of business partners or new clients, from an insurance perspective, you are covered. We find, and there's facts and figures here that I can share to kind of back that up. But basically, we find that without having an insurance professional part of that discussion, that money's being left on the table, that there's exposures, gaps that are uncovered, that if not covered with insurance, if God forbid anything happens, it could be very costly from a business perspective. And then the last piece that I'll just focus on is the cyber risk. And that's something that I've done a lot of different panels specific to concerns on cyber. And there's an awful lot of concern out there, because, as I think Alex mentioned, that there's more and more of the remote workforce, people working off site. They're still going to need access to systems such as their quality management systems. they're going to need access to that. Well, having access to that provides more flexibility from a business perspective to hold on to your employees, but also more concerns that, hey, you know what, we're only as good as the weakest link, that if something happens in terms of exposure and not understanding the risk from a cyber perspective, that I could be held up from a ransomware perspective. I could suffer a breach that will impact or infect my clients and my customers, that will then force me into a very difficult process of figuring out what happened and then recovering from that. You know, there's a fact that we use in terms of small and mid-sized businesses, that 60% of those businesses that suffer some sort of I'll say minor to major breach, if they do not recover within 12 months, will go out of business because they weren't properly prepared and they didn't have the proper safeguards beforehand in place. Yep, we got 5 minutes.
Yes, correct. You read my mind.
No worries. I'm actually, this is the last part of it. And this is something that I can't stress enough. Out of all the risks that are out there, this is the one that I think time and time again worry businesses large and small more than anything, because there's so much uncertainty tied to that. And there's also so many ways of concern on how or something can go wrong that you're maybe not aware of. And, you know, again, I'll go back to the fact that working with a technology company and there's many different elements of cyber, whether it's the pre-breach services they may offer or post-breach services offer, but making sure that you have the right cyber professionals. Even if you did suffer a ransomware, would you even know what to do or how to do if you wanted to pay that, you know, in terms of Bitcoin? Does anyone know how to mine Bitcoin? Does anyone know the risks, you know, or any regulatory concerns and what you should be aware of? So really having friends and resources out there is just going to be so important into 2022. And there's so many, you know, a great provider, service providers, especially in HIA alone, from a technology perspective, that really understand and really customize and gear things to that. So that being said, I think I'm gonna leave it at that and say thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be part of this panel and to have a conversation with everybody on this. You know, we're available for answering any questions either during or after. And again, utilize the resources available to you. You pay good money to be part of an organization like HIA Long Island. They provide some great resources for you. And I think moving into 2022 with the uncertainty and with the additional challenges, you really, as a business professional or a business owner or a corporate executive, need to be taking advantage of these resources that are available.
Rob, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Let me take over the screen. So in terms of risk management and risk assessment, actually very important to consider. And you also mentioned one thing which was also critical, was actually being proactive. Similarly, we'll also mention that. Let me move the screens. Okay. So think about ahead of anything happens, before anything happens, and then being prepared. So in that sense, it's critical. So I know we have many questions from our audience I've been receiving. However, we have limited time. So what I'll do is I'm going to share some questions with our panelists. And I also keep the contact information on the screen with our panelists. So if you like to, stay in touch and ask your questions later on, I have their email address on the screen, so you can continue the conversation. So one of the questions, for example, that I received is for John. John, so one of the questions that we received from our attendees is actually about social media management. So there are different social media channels in the marketplace. There is LinkedIn for business oriented, but we also see businesses using Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, and so on, different types. So which one to choose, and what should be the criteria as for our businesses? That's one of the questions that I received. If you can share your thoughts, that'd be great.
Which channel to choose? Basically?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, LinkedIn is the top, channel for B2B businesses. I think, but some other maybe smaller businesses or businesses that interact with consumers will get some results from Facebook. Twitter is great for like conferences and stuff like that with tagging and like reposting things from speakers and keynotes and all that. But all of them are good, but we absolutely see the best results from LinkedIn. Their advertising platform, they rebuilt it about a year ago. And I remember we were actually lucky enough, before everything shut down, we went to their headquarters in the Empire State Building. They invited us as an agency and showed us how they rolled out this whole new marketing platform where you can really target specific businesses, people with certain certifications, like I want to go after electrical engineers with this certification in these states. Their targeting options they have are just absolutely incredible. And I'm sure everyone here has very specific audiences they're looking to hit. I'm really bullish on LinkedIn. That's where we've seen the most results.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, John.
Sure.
One more question that I received from the audience, but let me know what you think. We have limited time, but just briefly. So as for the qualified leads and sales processes, so we also have sales teams basically engaging with these leads in different forms, sometimes by email, sometimes by phone, sometimes face to face in different formats. So in terms of like training sales teams, for example, do you have any insights that you'd like to share with us, like how we should train our sales team members moving forward? Any considerations that we should?
Yeah, I mean, as far as just sales training philosophies, there's definitely obviously there's Sandler and all these sales techniques. Kind of where we get involved is how to use the technology to help you in the sales process. Like for instance, I spoke about HubSpot software. Everyone's sending out proposals, probably typically a PDF attachment, right? There's software where you can, like HubSpot, where you can load in that PDF attachment and give it to them as a web link. And then you get analytics on that. Like you'll get a notification every time a client or prospect open your proposal. How many, let's say there's 10 pages and there's a pricing page, right? And you can find out they spent 5 minutes on the pricing page, knowing they're really seriously considering this, or different packages, which one they spent the most time on. So there's lots of software like this where you can get really good intelligence and tools, meeting links, like how many times do you email back and forth with someone? They're like, oh, are you good Friday? Are you good this time? Like you can just send a meeting link now through Teams or something else where they just pick a time off your calendar. So that's where we really like to focus on in all those technology pieces that can help the sales process.
Makes sense. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just like Alex mentioned earlier, it all comes down to software at the end of the day, especially nowadays we are working remotely, so it's critical. Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Sure.
And again, John's email address is on the screen, so if you'd like to be in touch with him, you have his email address. Cynthia, one of the questions that we receive is about how many awards can you apply for a company? Your microphone is muted, Cynthia.
Hi, I'm so sorry about that.
No problem.
Can you just repeat the question?
Yes. For a company, how many awards can you apply for?
Okay, so a company can apply for an MTRC grant as they make their cash investments. So if a company is involved in, let's say, a training project, and at the same time, the company is purchasing equipment, let's say, to support an additional manufacturing line, those are two projects that the company can apply for at the same time. Okay, so essentially the company can apply for as many projects that qualify for grant matching as the company makes those cash investments and meets the qualifications. Okay, and qualifications would be for job creation or retainment.
Thank you, Cynthia. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let me see if we have, okay, so one question for Alex, and I have one question for Rob as well. I have actually more questions, but we have limited time, so that's why I try to wrap up a little bit if I can. So Alex, so one of the questions that I received is about remote work and quality management. So how does it affect operations of businesses, especially manufacturers, working remotely and hybrid setups and managing quality remotely, and what we should consider moving forward.
Yes, that's a very difficult issue. The company has to address that, and one way, as I mentioned, is to allow the remote workforce to have full access to the QMS system. In order to do that, you have to have a tool, obviously, that is set up so that it gives privileges to not only your workforce, but also when you do an audit. Let's say there's an external audit, there's a surveillance audit, which is done yearly. So the auditor has to have access to your QMS from a remote location, which can be done. But again, the company has to decide and acquire a tool to do that. And obviously with a tool comes the risks, as Rob discussed. So, but that's the kind of world that we live in, and I guess we have to address that and deal with it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's how it looks. So I appreciate it. So everything started, especially earlier this year, we had a conference that we organized in our company. So we talk about future of remote work. So everything started with remote work, and then turns out to be a hybrid work setup. So that is what we have right now, and it affects all the business processes. So that's an important consideration to have. Rob, so we all know that insurance industry adapts to change very quickly. So one of the examples that I can just think of right away is, for example, cyber insurance, right? So we didn't have this a decade ago, perhaps, but insurance industry just adapted, and then, for example, there's cyber insurance, right? So there are other ways to assess risk and mitigate it with insurance. So in terms of for the new year, what are some of the trends happening in the insurance industry for the new year, you will say?
I'll say if focusing on from a cyber perspective, I'll say in general, being proactive and being understanding and utilizing the data of your company, your loss runs or lack of loss runs, meaning you haven't had any losses or any claims, that you're utilizing best in class software and solutions. So when you look at cyber, what's happening now is the carriers that underwrite cyber policies are asking a lot more questions of businesses, again, large and small, in terms of the types of software solutions you utilize if you have remote work options, in terms of employee training, because you're only as strong as the weakest link. If you're all you need is, we find that 2/3 of certain types of breaches occur because of that one time that the employee didn't clicked into the wrong site, or just wasn't prepared, or wasn't able to understand that what they've done kind of exposed the company. What type of updates do you do to your system? So there's a lot more questions and data that the cyber carriers that do the policies are asking. So utilizing, the insurance has gotten expensive, but it's still pretty cost effective, especially for a cyber and a tech errors and omissions policy. Still cost effective, and you still get good coverages, but you're going to be asked a lot more questions about your protocols and about your systems. So just being prepared for that is a good way to enter 2022.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Rob. I have more questions from audience, but we have limited time, so please feel free to get in touch with our panelists. I have their contact information on the screen, so that you can continue this conversation. So thank you to our attendees. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights and your experience. Much appreciated. So I'd like to wish everyone a happy holiday season and happy new year. We'll continue our committee meetings next year, as Rob mentioned, our co-chair. We have a meeting coming up in January, and we are looking forward to seeing you at that meeting. That is, what is the date, Rob?
It's going to be January the 12th.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So we welcome everyone to our meetings moving forward next year. And thank you very much, and happy New Year and happy holidays.
All right. Be well. Happy holidays,
Thanks, everyone.
everybody.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
Safe.